This is Platemark. My name is Ann Shafer, and I am your host. This is Series 3 of Platemark, in which I'm interviewing wonderful people who occupy the print ecosystem. Today, I have an incredibly special treat for everybody. My buddy Tru Ludwig and I traveled to see the amazing and inimitable Sue Coe at her place in upstate New York. So we recorded an interview with her out on the deck, and you'll hear birds chirping around us, and it was quite a bucolic setting. It was wonderful. Sue's amazing. I think you're going to enjoy hearing her talk about all of the things she believes so passionately. Let's see, housekeeping. I identify as a cis-het white woman, and I use the pronouns she, her. I record Platemark in Baltimore, Maryland, the land of the Piscataway Conoy people. Images that Sue talks about in our interview will be over on the show notes at platemarkpodcast.com. So over there, you can hit support and donate and support the work of the Platemark people. That would be me and Tru. It's just us, and we would really appreciate it. All right, let's see. I think that's it. Oh, and there is one last thing before we begin. I'd like to issue a trigger warning. We have conversations that range from animal cruelty and scenes in slaughterhouses to sexual violence. So be warned. Thank you. You're going to be good at it.
Cigarette.
I'll behave.
Ooh.
That wasn't me.
I'll have to keep that in.
Yeah, we're opening our 7th beer here.
Hey, everybody, it's Ann Shafer. I am with one of my favorite artists of all time, Sue Coe. And I am joined on this interview with Tru Ludwig, my partner in crime. We're sitting outside, too, so we've got lots of ambient noise. I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry for nature.
Swallows.
Oh, look.
These are tree swallows.
Oh, wow.
See, it's perfect.
All right.
As it should be. That's why one lives off the grid.
That's true. We're in Deposé, New York.
Deposé.
Deposé, New York.
It's like Detroit.
Spelled as deposit, but Deposé. Anyway, Sue, can you introduce yourself for our folks?
Double parked on the highway of life.
Okay, Sue.
About to be roadkill.
Oh. All right. You are a printmaker primarily, although you do some painting and some drawing, but printmaking is your first love, as I understand it.
No, drawing is my first love, but having the work accessible to people and affordable is also my first love. Therefore, I went to printmaking, but I've never made a print ever. I'm carving.
Ah.
I carve.
You've never printed.
I've never printed one print.
Oh.
Guess I never realized that. How about that? Good for you.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. That's just smart.
It's hilarious. No, it's funny because if you don't know much about printmaking, you could just assume that it's all one fell swoop. Like it's a one job thing, but they're so separate, the printing and the carving.
The editioning and the editioning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hence, Steve is...
Hence Steve, but we've never done an edition because we could never afford it. So we think, we don't say 1 out of 20, 2 out of 20. It's ridiculous. So we'll say, oh, well, we could get to the end of this. We give an approximate.
Right.
So we could never afford the paper, to buy the paper all at once, or the ink, or to edition it all at once. So it never was all at once. I didn't know that was in the olden times. Yeah. They worked the same way.
Yeah, I was just talking with Sue about how, she says when they've printed some, and then if they need more, they print more. But the concept of editioning wasn't really a thing until the 19th century. So when Dürer did his first edition of, let's say, The Great Wooden Passion, he printed a whole mess of them in 1498. And he's like, ooh, sold really well. Let's print a whole other batch in 1513. The first set sold out. They didn't have them numbered. We have no idea how many of the original prints there were of something.
This is fascinating.
Because that's the way it's supposed to be, right? It's as needed.
That's what I always thought. And anything can happen at the car wash. Because we take the block down to the car wash.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Get out.
Yeah, it's the best way to clean a block off. Just
Do you use water-based ink?
Yeah.
Well, that's why. Because I was going to say that would work very poorly with oil-based ink. But okay, that makes a whole lot of sense, too. Why wouldn't you use water-based ink? You wouldn't want to use bad solvents, would you?
No.
Of course not. What am I, dumb?
Oh my God.
Well, I mean, the idea of being close to the hideous pipeline that cost you the cherry trees, which is what you carve your blocks from,
Yes.
tells us a lot. So
Yes.
making use of everything that's
Yes.
local.
Exactly.
Leave no
Car wash. Leave no car unturned.
take only pictures, leave only footprints.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but Sue, I feel like your entire being is...
It's my art world. I made this. I made it because I wouldn't fit in. And, you know, women artists, trivial, doing animal rights, trivial, politics, trivial. So I made my own world. And it's here.
Deal with it.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. And it fuses everything. Like you make work about veganism, but you live it. And I so admire that in you because it takes work. It's work to live your convictions.
Practice what you preach, literally, and live.
But
as
isn't
a
it
vegan.
more work not to?
No.
Doesn't that take more work?
No, it's witless. You do whatever the heck you want. Screw anything else. I mean, even I recycle paper in my day job, but when you're printmaking and you have dead ends, what do you throw away? I don't want to hurt nature, but I use oil-based ink because, for me, that's what works best. So I use solvents, and then I can't let myself think about the oily rags that are, in the bin. It's way easier to be witless about it and not live your principles. Way easier.
I just assume somebody else will handle it.
Well, it's just going to, it's like we were talking about on the way up. 3 things in the world that have always frightened me, and I've decided that there's 4, and one of them is watching any kind of video of the glaciers breaking apart. It's just totally, it's going to happen, and you can't ignore it. It's just, you can't just expect it to go away, But I think it's really easy, especially as Americans, to just think it's going to be all right. No, it's not. What were all those things we were talking about earlier? The pipeline, and you said 30 years it was going to be about water, right? Mm-hmm. Well, tell us more.
I think that one of the problems, or something I'm aware of in America, is always having to tell a story with a happy ending. Mm-hmm. It's very infantile, and it's not one is promoting the apocalypse and the end of the planet, but I think people should read the science and then come up with alternatives. Let's get our minds working on it. And from my perspective, because I talk about the meat industry a lot, is we need to go vegan right away. And that's something we can all do as individuals, even though I don't believe in consumer choice as a political tool, because it really isn't. The government should be doing that. But it's something we can do right now. And it's completely better for you in every sense, better for certainly better for the animals, for all animals, for wildlife, for everyone. So we can do that. But back to my point about America always having the happy ending, or someone's will be triggered, or it'll be too... It's ridiculous. Like, live in the sorrow. Don't be scared of mourning, because we did it. The human, our species did this. And then we can plan. Then we can see what we can do. No, it's don't depress people. Don't be depressing. Well,
right.
What the fuck? Who the fuck are you not to be depressed?
It's alarmist. No, it's not alarmist. It's truth-telling, right? Because we're 1.5 degrees, and that's it. And the whole sense of water and the movement across the...
I mean, how does an animal feel, or the global south? How depressed are they when they only have a few feet of land to grow a grain because of our palate pleasure? Our desire for cheap animal products? How depressing is that? I mean, that's, I don't even think people are, I think it's so morally clear what we need to do. I am absolutely not the utilitarian idea that, be flexitarian or give up meat one day a week. One would never say that. Stop pedophilia on Wednesday, but it's fine on Thursday. No, So I think consistency is truth, and to be consistent is a lot easier than this partial, oh, I can only look at that, I can't look at that for too long, or I can't go in a slaughterhouse. Well, too bad. You know, you eat meat, you should be living in a slaughterhouse until you get it. So the point of my work, which I sound preachy here, but so what, is to make people vegan, to re-traumatize people into making a change, because this is the global north, destroying half the planet. And in my very long lifetime, half the species on Earth, half the mammals have been killed, half wildlife being killed. The weight of domesticated animals, the weight of those animals on the planet, I think it's 9 times more than wild animals. There are more pigs in Spain than human beings.
Is that right?
Yes.
Sure.
Wow.
It makes sense.
No,
I mean, it doesn't make sense, but that makes truth.
You know, there was such a struggle to pass this Prop 12, California, which gives a little bit more, it's a banning factory farm product of pork. And it's the interstate clause. It's the worship of mercantilism. So this country's going from neoliberal economics to mercantilism, which is protection of borders. It's ridiculous. You know, this is the positing as a solution. Burning up the planet is mercantilism, where you keep building more and more pipelines and consuming more and more animal products. So yes, we need to be mourning. We need to be in mourning and then come up with a plan. And that will take a lot of very, very smart people to figure this out. I mean, no, it doesn't mean rocket ships and we're all going to go to Mars. No.
There's no
Not
planet
that.
B, right?
No.
Yeah. I like the idea you were talking about when everything, I don't want to say goes south, when 30, you said 30 years from now?
I think it's 30 years. It's going to get it's going to be much harder to be, you know, humans aren't evil. I don't believe humans are evil. I think the economic system is evil. The economic system is the crime. Human beings can be indifferent, and that's our manifestation of evil.
Yeah.
Indifference.
That sounds like the American way. The concept you had said about how there's going to be mass migrations to go where the water
millions
is.
and millions of people will be moving because they have to.
And then the idea you had mentioned between from a railroad line going from Chile all the way up to Canada, so that there would be more a concept of sharing.
Yes.
Because that would be the solution.
I mean, Costa Rica's resolved a lot of problems with integrated. You know, they had a terrible time during World War II because they were a unicrop. They're producing coffee for Europe. World War II, Costa Rican people starved to death, and they realized they couldn't keep doing that. They had to make their own food and have much more of a balance. And so there's many people in the world that have suffered very gravely in the history of generation that have solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, if you're in Bangladesh, you know about flooding. So those will be the climate leaders.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
It makes perfect sense to me. You know, the ones who affect it first are going to have to deal with it. Or it's going to be the situation like down where Katrina hit. And if it's the poorest of the poor, they're still going to suffer because anybody with any power is going to be paying attention to something else that's more interesting to them, such as a wall or improving trade with X, Y, or Z, as opposed to addressing the problems of those at home who are suffering.
Yeah, the chickens, as Malcolm X said, chickens are coming home to roost.
Oh, yes. Oy.
The work it's direct witnessing without power is the source. That has to be the source for me.
Explain when your passion for animals started, and then when it was that you started realizing what you could do to affect change, or at least raise awareness. You were young. You were what? Grew up near
a slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
So that works in the American theatre, the theatre of the absurd. That explanation works. I grew up next to a slaughterhouse, therefore, ergo, I care about animals.
Well, no, but it raised your awareness. You must have heard or smelled or seen.
I do it because it's true. I say it because it's true, and it also works in the narrative of the American attention span.
Agreed.
So, I can't just say, well, I care about animals for no other reason other than an ethical concern with the web of life. That doesn't work. Mm-hmm. But growing up next to a slaughterhouse will work. That'll work. Mm-hmm. And a factory farm on the other side, a hog factory farm. So I was right in between those. And this is after the 2 European wars where no family left. I mean, still have no family. There's 2 wars, very few left. And the understanding of, well, how can genocide, how does this happen? How does this happen? Why don't we look over the wall? Why don't we want to look over the wall? Why is that prison right next door? We don't want to see it exactly, or we don't want it next door. And for a slaughterhouse or factory farm, it smells. Mm-hmm. So just push it off where poor people live. Not next to a golf club.
Right.
There's got to be, poor people have no choice. So their children will have flies all over their skin. Their children will be in the middle of lakes, lagoons actually of shit that come from so-called factory farming. They're poor people, so what? Well, that's America. That's what America is. It's lakes, lagoons of massive production, intensive production. So how can we make this visible? How do we make that visible when people want convenience? They want convenience of cheap. I mean, animals aren't food. They're not food. So how can we make that appear to people? And photographs, yes, you can take photographs, but a pencil, I've got my sketchbook here, pencil and sketchbook can get into a slaughterhouse. Camera, you're going to have to conceal that. And there is some incredible hidden video done. The most recent I can think of is an activist got a camera in the gas chamber. She actually left a mobile phone on, and she put it in the gas chamber as the hogs were being gassed. And she got back to her hotel rooms and she saw the footage. She couldn't believe it. So yeah, gassing. How do you think hogs are killed? So it's this massive production line. Mechanization has taken command. And single line system, we don't slaughter by the single line system. It's too time consuming. So animals are slaughtered in gas chambers 6 to 8. They take up to, 90 seconds to die. And they will try and climb up the side of the walls because the gas sinks to the bottom. So they'll climb up vertical walls to breathe. And then you'll see someone and say, oh, do you know how pigs are manufactured? And they'll go, I like the taste of bacon. And that's the level, that's a level of, it's cheap, it's made very cheap because it's subsidized.
Right.
So you're not paying a price. And the price is of that poor family living next door to that. They're paying the price, as well as the animals. And my idea is we should get plant-based, subsidized.
Isn't the corn is subsidized?
Well, corn and soy are animal feed.
Yeah.
So 90% of soy is animal feed. So imagine if you had soy that was just for human consumption, well, it would be 90% less. That's 90% of forests being destroyed, not for soy. Corn's ethanol. It's
right.
So it's not human food. So we can make amazing plants we don't even know. We can also work with grass because grass grows anywhere. That could be a protein. I mean, that's what cows and pigs eat. if they're free range, so-called free range, puts on enormous amount of weight from eating grass. Well, we have the technology to make grass. I mean, we're finding that technology that can be human food.
There's a lot to it.
There's a lot to it.
And it takes a lot of conviction. I feel like your art can sway. Like, I think I'm going to go home at least a vegetarian, if not a vegan. But good luck with my husband.
You're making it very extreme. It's not extreme. It's extreme for you to drive here and see a truck go past you that has animal fat, rendered hog fat, or that's extreme. That you're on the same road next to animals going to a slaughterhouse in 90-degree weather or freezing cold. They're going to the end of their lives when they're babies, not adults. They're 4 to 6 months or, a year, 3 years, if they're cows. That's extreme. That's extreme. Not, vegan is too extreme. Vegan is not extreme. The abolition of all animal use. That's what we're aiming for. So we live in an extreme world of hyper-exploitation of others. So that's sort of the messaging that's mainstream media to be vegetarian, meat-free Monday, or, I could go, I'm making this into a lecture, but it's switching it around what is extreme.
Rewiring.
It's rewiring, it's re-traumatizing, it's being able to see the reality of who is on that highway, who's being trucked to their extremely cruel death, or, during COVID, those pigs, those chickens, they were burned. They turned off the AC in sheds that have maybe 50,000 animals in them. And they slowly boiled to death. Because how do you kill 50,000 animals when you can't move them around? I mean, when a tornado goes through, a hurricane, how do you kill all those chickens in cages? You can't legally burn them because the cages are plastic. So they're buried alive. You make giant pits, they're pushed into the pits, and they're crying, and then they're covered up. And the 50,000 or 500,000, they've gone away now. That's extreme. People talking about the price of eggs, the real cost of eggs. What is the real cost? 1.5 increase in temperature for the planet? And no, their brains haven't been bred out of them. As any animal rescuers say, when animals are being flooded, the sow will put her piglets with her snoot, will keep them above the water level, even though they died, even though they're drowned. She will keep trying to keep the piglets dry. And that's an animal, their brain, their mothering instinct has been bred out of them. No. That's the point of the artwork. So what I love more is the content. I love the content. That's it. And it seems to me printmaking, making a print is so urgent. It's so immediate. It's so graphically harsh. It becomes everything to me. My pencil, it was too soft, it was beautiful, it was seductive. I can do anything with a pencil. Nothing like cutting into the wood. And I'm not even any good at it. This is a tragedy. I'm not even any good at it. But the thought of that, to cut I was thinking Munakata, Shiko Munakata.
Oh, yeah.
The cutting of that is just so glorious.
But your stuff, glorious and
Yeah, well, he's a genius.
Sorry.
So are you.
Well,
You already
not
explained
really.
that.
It's no.
It's, you know what is interesting, Sue, is I'm just looking at the piece that you are working on right now, and the ones you just showed us. The nature of your carving has changed substantially, even since the vegan handbook, the one that I
Oh,
bought.
so crude.
Exactly.
I
There's an
apologize.
elegance now. The way you're using your positive and negative spaces, and the linear qualities are way more evocative, and you've gotten much more lavish in the care that you can give to the image.
Thank you.
It's really interesting to see how much it has changed. Can you explain some of the work that you're doing right now with David Avery, and
Eric
Eric
Avery.
Eric
Avery.
Avery, and the
Well, we did this big print, so this is being printed by Jesse Shaw, Texas A&M International University. So he's just a master printer of lino, just immaculate, like the 0.8. He's got the 0.8 mentality, knows what it means, knows what that tiny little tool means. So he's printing the big piece that Eric and I worked on. So Eric, who's a medical doctor, did the viruses and the bacteria, and I did the scenes of the different types of zoonosis, which are the 50 most common.
explain zoonosis.
This
for
is
the
this
listeners.
is it means a spillover from one species to another. Reservoir species, deer, ticks, bats. I'm not putting this very well.
Like bird flu.
Avian influenza's many different parts of it, but that's probably the big one, and this is where back to factory intensive farming comes in. So can be transmitted to humans. It's rare though. That will be the big one because that's being carried by birds across the world. You know, if you look at Ebola or you look at COVID, COVID has factory farm fragments of animals within it. So you're getting all the fragments of factory farmed animals. So bird droppings fall into a factory farm. They get the virus because it's a unicrop wildfire. Nature abhors a stand of anything, and the virus spreads like wildfire. If that jumps to humans, it's going to be very, very bad. And it's like COVID with the live animal markets. I don't know how you can keep explaining the same. No one cares. You keep explaining it over and over. You've got bats for sale. You've got civet cats, foxes, pangolin. Although pangolins are illegal, obviously, in China, but you've got Vietnamese pangolin. So all together in a tiny confined space, spreading viruses. And then you've got government funding. It's called gain of function. These are red hot words now, gain of function. Really red hot. You know, funding. So it's speeding up how that virus is going to be a jumper virus into another species. So that's happening all over the world. Some of those labs are not great bio-level 4 labs. So it's messy, very messy. So to do artwork about that, first means forensic research, right? Forensic research. And then it means forgetting it all, shoving it away.
So learning the details, the truths of what's happening, and then putting it into a visual context.
You've dropped it off now. Don't need it.
So now
it's like Orwell said, you know, he edited where he's got 28 long words, he'll make one short word.
Sure.
That's editing to get rid of the massive amounts of research one could do over any subject. And then what's the image? And that could take years to come about. Mm-hmm. But what is that image that's going to, you know, with Cruikshank did cowpox, of course, and brilliantly came up with the image, which is, you know, in the injection and the wealthy woman and then a cow growing out of the arm. And, you know, he just did it. Just that's what artists can do with all that information. Just amazing. So Eric and I were doing this print, and of course he can draw viruses better, carve viruses better than I can. So we've worked together in that sense through our 40-year friendship. You know, he's a much bolder cutter than me. I'm just a little, you know, my little tools, my little pointillistic type things. He's really cuts into blocks. Beautiful work.
You two have known each other for 40 years, but
Yes,
you've worked...
probably slightly
Well,
less.
but you've worked together on
Yeah,
several different issues.
we're doing art as medicine.
Ooh, please talk about that
Yes,
more.
please talk about that.
Art is medicine, or as Eric would say, is, you know, first art of medicine would be Spanish-speaking prints that are images, washing your hands. So it would be very diagrammatic. Going back to 18th century, let's say, you would have diagrams about cholera. You know, there would be art as medicine. They'd have a point to educate people that maybe couldn't read or spoke all different languages in the cosmopolitan cities. That's Turkey.
Yes, certainly is.
So,
It's not hiccups.
and then today, art as medicine would be a type of rage where you can share that and find people that have the same response when you feel isolated or lonely. So you can show the work, then someone can say, I felt that. And then, of course, as always with us, as always with printmaking, technique is the test of sincerity. So it has to be well done, or people won't trust you.
Whoa, slow down.
That was
What?
beautiful.
Wow.
Technique is a test of sincerity. I love that.
That is amazing.
Get
Extrapolate.
more. Yeah. Pull this
Give us
apart.
more.
Let's give us more taffy on the talk.
Well, I'm
technique.
sure that was actually a quote of Ezra Pound, which one wouldn't
take
want
it.
to quote anyway. But it's not my original thought. But the idea is it has to be well done. It has to be an investment of your labor, your skill, your craft for people to trust you. So especially as it's the container of the weight of social political messaging, there has to be some level that you're committed to this, that you've actually made something you care about, you've slowed time down enough to draw and paint and carve so you could be trusted. You can trust me on this. I've done the research. I've got the form, the technique.
Perfect.
So yeah, so artists are not uniquely, but are some of the special people who can distill all of that information to that one image of the cow coming out of the arm of the woman. It's
The iconic
yeah.
image, the thing that absolutely hits home.
It's a special thing, which you do in your work, but also in your longevity of hammering home all of the points about not only veganism and animal cruelty, but politics and all that. To me, because you live what you just live it through and through, and you're the most authentic artist we've talked to, I think.
Oh, Eric's pretty authentic.
Well, we haven't gotten to him yet.
We'll get
Eric
down
Avery
there.
is about as authentic as you can be.
Authenticity to me is the best part and the most important part about being human. Like if we don't know each other, nothing will work. And if
That's
you
true.
can't get vulnerable with other people, who are you?
I love that thought that vulnerability is a superpower.
Yeah.
You know, if you're willing to do that, then you're going to actually get someplace.
Right.
It could be terrifying, but you'll make some progress for yourself or whomever you're working with.
Yeah.
Well, when you die, all that's left in your clutched, clawed hands is what you gave away. That's all you can take.
You can't take it with you.
Can't take it with you, so everything has to be transparent, open, process, contradictions, all of it.
It's the gifts we give that are the lasting things.
Yeah.
Your effect on other people.
Right.
Right.
With the memory of what you've transported.
And it's building up good memories as well. Not just the darkness of a slaughterhouse or prison, but also how everyone helps. And how you can give a print or a drawing to somebody that helped you in that terrible circumstance. So you're building up positive memories. You're not cycling around, making little tiny streams and now becoming giant banks of sorrow. When you do that, when you become a witness and you are with people, they can see you draw and they can add their opinion. It's sharing moments that balance the horror. I think that's important because it's art as medicine, and part of art as medicine, healing, is being vulnerable, is showing up somewhere where you have no power, and then seeing what will happen in the art. These are all just words too. But I'm trying to think, it's easier for me to take on the sorrow when you've got the balance.
My question to you, because you've harvested the information from the science, done the reading, have the courage of your convictions, when you have spread those onto the block visually, this is a total geeky printmaker question. What do you feel like when you're carving?
I feel nothing.
Get out.
Wow.
You
Beautiful.
disappear? You disappear.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
I got it.
That's the best feeling.
It's the absence of you, right?
It's the absence of you.
It's almost like there's no cells.
The weight of you is gone.
Oh, wow.
Do you disappear when you do it too? Like when you're carving, do you just think time disappears and it's the quietest place you can be? Yeah.
Do you carve every day?
Yes.
Unless you're traveling, obviously. Oh, do you bring things with you when you're traveling to keep
I just
going?
bring a sketchbook because it's hard to bring the tools. Then I have to check the luggage.
Yeah,
I
and
would
it's always
like
an issue.
Right.
Yeah.
But another geeky question, how long can you spend carving? Do you have a sense? Are there days when it hurts more? Or if because you're carving in the wood, the knowing when to stop?
It's interesting because I've spent my life doing drawing. I can barely draw. Like it's intense pain starts to happen because it's the same muscle over and over again. But with carving, it's so many different movements.
Yeah.
So I would say, honestly, 5 hours.
Okay.
5 hours could go past.
Yep. Do you ever get to the point where you're thinking, you have a fairly scripted sense of what you're going to put into the block?
I do.
When I'm doing it, sometimes I'm actually sort of painting with the tool as I'm going. But just when it starts to get itchy, when I start to think something's going to get taken away that shouldn't be, having to walk away, like when you're doing a watercolor and not reserving your white properly, do you force yourself to walk away ever, or have you been able to transcend
That's
that?
the big mistakes. You start overcutting.
Yep.
It's a big mistake. It's a horror.
It is. All of a sudden you look down, it's like,
After all that
damn.
What the?
You can say it.
That's
We do it all the time.
horrible thing.
But the other thing I was completely appreciating when you were showing us prints in the drawer was, well, here was a failed one, and being able to admit you poured all this time and essence of self into it, but it's a failed print for whatever reason, and then being willing to show that to students,
And
which
keep
is
it, just to keep it.
keep it to show this happened too. I mean, those are lessons you tack to the wall, say, don't do this again for myself. Like you said, people are afraid to feel the sorrow. Sometimes you have to put the dumb shit that you pulled up on the wall so you don't do it again, as opposed to just the triumphs and the trophies. I think it was lovely to see in the drawer 3 out of it must have been 50 different pieces of paper in there. You're like, nope. And one that you had said that you completely got in the way of all of the material.
Yeah,
but you lost its
it was
humanity.
an intellectual justification.
Yeah. As opposed to that.
It was clever.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was clever.
All right. Can we
That's
describe
nice.
the work and then walk
please
through
do.
what this is?
Oh, it was, I was interested in the words Jim Crow, and I researched it, and I asked American people, what does it mean? And they told me the emotional meaning, but not the history.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
They didn't know.
Oh.
No, they didn't.
They didn't. The Americans didn't. Well,
No.
yeah. That's actually not
I mean,
surprising.
they know what it means.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't know its origin.
It's like gerrymandering. I heard the word 1 million times. I asked people, what does it mean? And they told me what it meant, but they don't know the history.
Well, that's like like we were talking about.
Salamander, and it's a politician called Jerry, right?
Oh, there you go. Yes.
So I get down that hole of research, and that becomes everything to me, and then I put it in the art veil. No.
That's why you were talking about letting the research, putting that aside.
Yes, it has to be dropped away.
Well, because you were in this print, you had a crowbar and a flock of crows.
This is the language.
Right.
Crowbar.
Right.
Was the steel bar they used to bludgeon crows who are black, crows to death with when they soaked the corn in whiskey, and the crows would drink and be tipsy, not be able to fly, and then they'd be smashed to death with a crowbar. And this goes into the dance, the apparent minstrel dance of a man who was an entertainer on the boards across America, saw this dance, and it could have been a disabled person, we don't know, but then he took that and made a song about it, and it became phenomenally successful. And depending on the state he was performing, was either abolition of slavery or pro-slavery. The audience would invent the words. And I thought, this is so fascinating. And every time this fascinating part came up, it was like history's opening up. And he even traveled to England with this invented dance and song. But it has nothing to do with the emotional feeling of people being oppressed and exploited every day of their lives. It just was ridiculous that I got lost in the historical context of how words came about. Crowbar, that's where it comes from. Bludgeoning crows to death to save a corn crop. Jim Crow.
Right. And so the name Jim Crow doesn't really properly describe what
The horror of it.
Right.
So I shouldn't have ever tackled that.
Gotcha.
That should have been my just a bit of side interest. I should not have tackled that content because I was so removed. I had the luxury of removal.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was good to learn things, but the content failed. And so when I explained that to the students, they completely said, well, we still want the print.
Well, it's a great story.
I mean, we'll take
about
it.
Artistic creation.
You know, this was... So it worked for them because I revealed how bad it was. So art only happens when the viewer says, this is art.
Oh, yeah.
And it became art to them.
Right, right.
In my failure explanation.
Well, and it's clearly so much richer when you know the backstory and you know that you consider it a failure. But that's always, as a curator, one of your issues. Like how much background does the work need?
Mm-hmm. Should it be able to stand? Does your work
do you
speak
even
for
know?
itself?
Are you even the judge? Can you even tell at the time?
Sure. Right. It's complicated.
Well,
It's complicated.
Tremendously so.
Yeah.
It's complicated. I mean, when I did the rape, I did prints with that photo etching. I did a big rape, you know, it's in a museum. Okay, so
Is it an homage in any way, or it had its seminal genesis with Käthe Kollwitz, or
no, it was an
completely
actual
different?
real rape of a woman raped on a pool table by 22 men. Or
Okay.
18 men while 22 watched. I mean, it's a huge painting. But
painting?
I mean, the point was, when it went up on the wall, it's been shown quite a few places, men will stand in front of it and say, I've never raped a woman. I've never. But what it does is it opens up a dialogue. That's the role of what we do. We have a dialogue now. Well, you haven't ever raped a woman. Good for you. Good for you. But do you know what it's like to go to a car park, you know, carrying your groceries and trying to open the car, or get on a bus and it's late at night and do you know that feeling? And okay, so it's opening up talking. It's opening up exchange of ideas. It's opening up. People could stand in front of work and talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the gifts of doing this work.
Yes. I would hazard a guess to say that there are some artists who are creating because they feel they have some creative soul that must be, shown to the world. But there's a whole other column of artists for whom it's like you're
It's autodic.
a vehicle.
Autodic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In the trenches,
Yep.
my art eats here.
You are full of pearls.
Oh,
Thank
tons. It's strings and strings and strings.
My art eats here. That's it.
Totally. As opposed to the artists, and it's okay if things go with your sofa, but it's not okay if things that go with your sofa are made by me. I think as a printmaker, for me, it's it doesn't need to be decorative. If you're a printmaker, you're doing something because you're doing it in multiples. Why make a print if you don't know what you have to say? I keep telling my students that just because you can make more of a thing, at least know what the idea would be or why you're putting an image to a plate. Otherwise, it's just Kleenex.
You're harsh.
Well,
I'd never say that to a student.
I want them to
They're
think
just like kids.
Kids that can think would be great.
Oh, that's too much. This is America.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right.
Think.
There's supposed
That's
to be a
a bit
happy
much.
ending.
Whoa, that's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. They're not Kleenex. They're puffs.
Well, I will say that having watched students at Micah come through the printmaking department over the years, that they can take some pushing.
They have to. They expect it. And if they don't expect it, then they're not going to be artists that stick with it.
Or artists that people like me would be interested in.
Well, there's that. That's
Right?
why you probably asked how long we've known each other. How often do you leave this sacred land, this marvelous little haven you've made for yourself? How often do you actually leave here?
Not very often.
That's kind of what I thought.
This is a very remote place, but I've really known my friends more than just meeting them for, a dinner in New York City. Them coming out here for longer than a dinner. I've really got to know friends that I've known for decades, but when they come out here, the first thing that worries them is internet connection. And they're so wound up with anxiety, you can see them just changing. And it's safe, it's all right. And just even when I had an outhouse, just the terror. At night, it was startling, the fears. And these are like hardened New Yorkers. The thought of being in the dark with no streetlights, and they had to get to an outhouse. And you can see how people are wound so much. Like, I could miss a call, an email. What am I going to do? But once my friend, she's a nurse practitioner, she said, I've been screaming for you for hours.
Oh, no.
There was a bear outside the outhouse. She was, where were you? I've been screaming for hours. Poor soul.
That's probably why I wouldn't go out in the dark to the outhouse.
Oh, you're the chamber pot kind of girl.
Oh, yeah. Snakes, no. Bears, no. Mountain lions, no.
Snakes, they're lovely here.
Snakes are nifty.
There's a milk snake here, Alfred. Really big, Alfred.
Nice.
And he's a beauty, but he does faux rattler. So if you get too close to him, he does faux rattler. Whistle the tail like this. But there's no rattle. It's sad.
He's a mime.
It's like you have to act scared to go along. Oh, rattler. Oh, he's just a big milk snake. He just acts scared and run off. Now he's happy.
So you've been here since roughly 2000?
Yeah.
Wow.
And before that, were you living in the city?
I was living on 84th between 2nd and 3rd.
Oh, wow.
Oh, good Lord. There's a switch. What, did everybody think you were daft when you just went, boop, I'm off the grid now?
It was a tiny little apartment. It wasn't even one. It was 1.5 rooms. I loved it there.
Yeah.
I did. I love New York. All parts of it. The thing is, animals don't.
Yeah.
So that was the...
That was the impetus
Ah.
of my dog.
Okay. You have a neighbor, Steve, who lives in the house that's
Yep.
just a quote-unquote block away. It's just down the drive.
In the woods.
In the woods. For several reasons. One, he prints for you. But so when you first finish at the block and Steve and you print them, do you print? I mean, I know you don't print the 100, but do you print 5 or...
It's 5.
5? Oh, hey. Nice. I mean, because the gallery has to have something to sell at a fair should they ever decide to go to a fair again.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 I mean, they've got a good sense of what would sell,
Okay.
too. Which is not my sense at all. They have a much better sense. I mean, there's never been really any books about who buys art. So gallery dealers and, they're very in the front lines of why people buy something, what's their interest. So it's never what I would imagine.
But you wouldn't make things to cater to a market either, knowing you.
Absolutely not.
Would you tell
That's not
us?
even.
Would you
I
tell us?
couldn't.
I know
I
you
mean,
couldn't.
I'm desperate to sell out, but no one's ever offered me anything. So I can't even test myself in the great, I could do this and it would sell. No, I remember me and Steve, we did an edition once. It was over the S&L crisis of George Bush, the president. We actually printed an edition. And out of all the prints I've done, Steve remembers this because we never sold one.
Oh!
So it was an edition of 100 or
Oh, my God.
75. We'll never do that again. And of course, in my mind, S&L crisis, saving and loan, it was fascinating.
Yeah.
I can't imagine why no one would want to buy that as a piece of art. So, no, I could not ever deduce who would be interested.
Do us a favor and explain to the listeners why you're represented by whom you're-
Kollwitz.
Yeah, but why you're represented by whom you are and how you made that happen.
Because I didn't have a gallery and I didn't want a gallery. I'd been in a gallery and they were very decent and they sold my work and it was fine. But I just didn't want that. I didn't ever want sales. I only want a living wage. I don't want anything more because it's just extra labor you have to deal with.
So now you're with Galerie St.
So now I'm with
Etienne.
the Galerie St. Etienne.
Hey everyone, it's Anne breaking in to give you a little background on Galerie St. Etienne. We start talking about the gallery and also one of its luminaries, Hildegard Bachert, who was a partner in the gallery with the original founder, Otto Kallier. And upon his death, she became partners and co-directors of the gallery with Kallier's daughter, Jane. So the two of them represented many of the most amazing German and Austrian artists of the 20th century, including Gustav Klimt and Oskar Kokoschka and Paula Modersohn-Becker and Egon Schiele, and of course Kollwitz. Hildegard was the world's leading expert on Käthe Kollwitz. It was because of Hildegard that Sue felt Galerie St. Etienne would be a good fit for her. So while Hildegard died in 2019, Jane has continued on. They have shuttered their bricks and mortar gallery space and have transformed themselves into an art advisory that is going by the name Kallier Research Institute. So that's a little bit of background there.
I chose them because they really don't want to sell art. Which they've said many times, which is illegal, actually. If you open your doors or something, oh no, another stockbroker or something. No. So they have this idea of the right people should have the work. They've got this idea of finding people that love the work, which they've done for me. So, and I chose them because they're Kollwitz and they had everyone I loved. And they never did a bad show in my eyes, ever, in their history. and they were...
Well, they're scholars, too. Their
scholars,
shows are
absolutely
unusual.
scholars, and,
Well, that's how we came across. That's when we went to a show of yours in Kollwitz at Galerie St.
Yeah, that was a
and that's when
great
I got
show.
my
It was a great show, yeah.
outrage. I'd said, "Do you have any Kollwitz in anywhere?"
Oh, yeah, that's where you got it.
And she's the one that said, "Mutter, mutter," behind the door.
But it's a restrike.
And I said, "Okay, it's up behind it. I don't care if it's a posthumous restrike.
It's a restrike.
It's touched the plate. It has the mojo."
Yeah, so Hildegard escaped Nazi Germany when she was 15.
Yeah.
And brilliant art dealer. I remember introducing her to someone as a historian. She goes, ridiculous. I'm an art dealer. It was...
She was a historian for sure.
No, but she never
those
wanted to say,
newsletters.
she wanted to say dealer. No, that's Jane.
Oh, okay.
Jane Clear does it. She's the granddaughter of Otto Clear that founded the gallery in Austria. Then they escaped to France. That's why it's called St. Etienne, because they were the river. It was the cathedral. It was the name of the cathedral. Mm-hmm. And then they had to escape from France to New York City. And then Dr. Clear employed the young Hildegard, who just was my honour and privilege to know. Just the most brilliant. And Jane's very kind too, very scholarly, very good. So to be with them was like, you could be purring, Drew. You could be purring.
Oh, I am.
It's a purring joy of knowing the history and knowing the Kollwitz family too, because of course Hildegard knew the Kollwitz family.
I did not know that.
Yes, and still alive. The granddaughter looks exactly like Kollwitz.
No, we're way wow.
Yeah, so knew those artists, and some were assholes. It's true, has to be said. And
Dot, dot, dot.
Well, you got to feel that sorrow.
yeah. And Hildegard would say it would never follow. A great artist cannot be an arsehole. She would always say that.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
She would, when she said something, it was always the truth.
Huh.
She said they wouldn't care, the gallery. They would not represent anybody who they felt had no ethical... Once they found out, they were gone.
Wow.
So that was a part of their whole history and their whole dimension of them. Is the person had to be, the artist had to be someone of substantial ethical belief. They would not represent someone. They would not. And they did name names, which I'm not going to.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I mean, besides the obvious Picasso.
Well, I mean, their expertise is German, Austrian expressionism,
Right.
so there are elements within there that they would not represent.
But do say how you walked in there and introduced yourself.
I introduced myself as saying, presumptuously and inaccurately, but it worked, I'm the living Kollwitz. Mm-hmm. And you are marketing and representing her, and she's long gone, and I'm here, and I need a representative, and I've chosen you. And they said, who are you? Which of course made me just love them even more. So it was very much love at first sight. And then Hildegard and I, we had Kollwitz on the floor, and we just kneel over it and start talking about technique. You know, the work there from the Peasants' War, the mother finding her child with the lamp. Just talk about technique and talk about the different states and talk about the different, which print had the depth. Hildegard was profoundly moved by art. When I would meet her to go to a museum, we'd go to the Met, I could time exactly when she would finish. So I'd zoom around like a mosquito looking for blood. My art feeds anywhere. And I'd find the 3 paintings I want, drawings, I want prints I want to look at. Hildegard get everyone a fair chance. She would go through 15 minutes of staring, then the next, and I would be outside the museum. Oh, I'll meet you for dinner then, and and I'd know exactly when she would come out. But that was her egalitarian spirit of how she gave everyone her vision. She gave everyone the time.
Consideration.
Consideration is the word.
Yeah. Huh.
Not just for me, I'm like, what can I steal from this? I need it now.
Well, you're an artist,
yeah,
a pure artist.
Grab. But her, it was, yeah, she was amazing. I mean, who would want to go anywhere else? I didn't.
Yeah. But you had also said your goal wasn't to sell artwork. It was to be represented by someone who knew where your work needed to be. Yes,
and they knew it, and they were not entirely all thrilled with me either. It wasn't, we've had a few little rows, but and sometimes they were right.
Yeah.
It was too close for me to see it.
It is kind of hard when that
the knife goes in the margarine, like in the cold knife into the soft underbelly of the marge.
And then sometimes
when you think you brought in a work of genius, and then it just goes ching.
Okay, see you in 6 months.
I know.
Nah, that's not gonna work. No. I'm so pleased that I asked you about that.
Yeah, well, imagine having that in your life.
Exactly. Because that's the first time we met. We were talking about Hildegard. The very first day we met was at the exhibition at York College, Pennsylvania. It was you and Kollwitz and an Indonesian artist that Matthew Clay Robinson put together. Now, he gets amazing things there. And that wasn't your first time there, was it? I think you'd been there before, which I thought was remarkable since York, Pennsylvania isn't exactly, wow. But it's not a huge draw, but my God, the shows that he puts on there and the
well, he believes, he's got that Hildegard belief.
Yeah.
He's got that Hildegard passion.
And giving the students that opportunity to really understand something major league.
Absolutely.
From
that's a gift.
Source. Yeah.
That's a gift they'll take with them.
Yeah. It's amazing, and it was wonderful listening to them and the questions they had for you at your talk. That was delightful. In much the same way that the students that you said this is a failure print, and they said, well, we want to buy it, and you wouldn't let them.
Oh no,
then just take it.
I wasn't selling the prints, I don't think. Oh, it was $20 unless they couldn't afford it. Exactly. And I said it's not worthy of $20.
You see? The idea is just get it.
No, I know.
Yeah. No, but maybe not everybody else does miss it.
Well, so there's a tipping point between wanting to get your images out there, selling them, and also your legacy of placing them in institutions.
Yeah.
Right? There's a kind of a balance there that's difficult. So
how do you approach that?
Right.
I've never placed anything in an institution. How is it placed?
As in
That's a funny word to say. You must be institutional. The way you said those words.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Museum all the way.
Well, I've never placed.
You could.
I've never placed anything.
She already has a dealer in.
I know. I mean, the Baltimore Museum, for instance, has 13 things, gifts from, what were Monroe Denton, and then another gift from, I forget their names.
Well, what is it?
There's 13 prints there. They're mostly from the 80s, maybe one from early 90s. It's kind of arranged. They're pretty small.
Okay.
I'd looked at them all the time because I was always trying to come up with a show about, people who pack a punch in their work, which never came to fruition. But I mean, I feel like the right curator would love to work with you to put together a group of works. I mean, I don't have an institution behind me. It would be me otherwise. It could be a combination gift purchase. It could be, there's so many ways to do it.
Combination gift purchase.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
but it's a great one because that's how the St. Louis Art Museum got that whole collection of.
From the Simmonses.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you would give them a substantial break so that whatever that break discount was would be your gift.
This is like alien language to me. Substantial, what?
All right. So if you have a pile of prints that are altogether worth $10,000, you would sell them to a museum for $5, and they could consider the other $5 as a gift from you. That would be a combo gift purchase. You could also gift them.
So you're speaking in tongues.
I love this. It's so
Like
sweet.
someone speaking in tongues.
Well, I get it. And that's why I thank God it was Ann that finally got that website to happen.
Yeah, so we built Tru a website finally after 20 years.
I didn't rush into anything. I wanted it to be right.
Well, I really appreciate the sort of I'm not interested in money part. You just want to change people's minds through really important and great work.
definitely interested in having a living wage.
Exactly. So
It's not like I'm not interested in the money part. There's bird seed, dog food.
right,
Gasoline.
rations for
Yeah.
snow.
Oh, yeah.
Snowplow gasoline.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that it would be interesting to do a survey around museum collections across the country and see how much of your work has landed in institutions, and think about where some work might end up. Okay, so I guess the question is, when you think about after you're gone, what is the best way for your messages, like Kollwitz's, to stay in the present?
I know that Whitney, they say, oh, we have this work and it's shown a lot of AIDS print.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's sold for $25 in an auction. And they've got it.
Mm-hmm.
That was an auction probably to raise money for people with HIV. Or maybe they actually bought it for $25.
They may have.
Right? But that's it.
Yeah.
So I didn't place that with them.
No.
I didn't place my $25 photo etching.
Nor did you get the $25.
No. Nor did I. No.
We should get the Whitney to cough that up.
Well, we can talk to Kim.
It's like, well, what the fuck? I mean, what the fuck? Like, fuck off, you witless fucking kids. I don't want to place my work in that. What? They've never done anything.
Well,
yeah, what are you saying then?
Is it worth it to have your work in an institution is the first question.
It depends on the institution. I mean, I had a show at PS1 that was perfect. I loved it.
Recently, 2018.
Well, and MoMA has quite a lot of work, but the Whitney, buying a $25 print, maybe they would do, someone gave it to them after the auction.
Very possible.
What the fuck? So most of them, no, just die. Just fuck off.
I love you so much.
All right, I'll stop talking now.
No, you've created the world you want to live in.
And the woman, female, when you're 91, they give you your retrospective when you can barely muster the energy to swallow the 8 Tylenols. It's like, oh, thanks a lot. Made it to 91 through no help of you, through no support of you. Yeah, that's what happens. That's the way of it.
But you'll do anything to speak to a group of students.
Yeah. I mean, there are some really great museums and great people. I mean, I did like the PS1. And I just had a show, a student curator, she did the dream show for me. It was letters, recipes, sketches, prints.
Where was this?
This was at the Texas A&M.
Oh, wow.
She did it all by herself.
Wow.
It was brilliant. It was exactly what my work is about. It was Eric's and our friendship over 40 years. It was our letters to each other, how to make bread, then the print little secrets. And she made this whole show about friendship.
What a beautiful
Because that means something in that community of Spanish-speaking people, friendship, family, community. And there it was. She made it out of all my work. It was...
That's
from
the
the newspaper cuttings and that. She made it as one thing. Not like, some stupid museum is going to go, oh, yeah, she was hot in the 80s. Let's get her from the Lower East Side work, that crappy work I just spewed forth. No, I'm not interested in looking at work from the freaking 80s because that was hot then or whatever it was. No, this was a real proper show that understood how artists work. It was, and she's only like 21 or something. Brilliant.
Look forward to looking that up.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I hope, is there good photo documentation of it?
Yeah.
It sounds so lovely.
You know, and the HOV work, she made it go down, the images, because there was enough wall space. And then it went down on the floor with paper. And then if you knew anyone that died of AIDS, you left a bouquet. I mean, it was just brilliant.
Wow.
You know, I didn't talk to her once in this show. She never called me and said, oh, no.
Wow.
She did it all by herself,
Wow.
based on what she'd read and what she looked. So, yeah.
Wow.
20-something
You see, the
kid.
The future is trying to be taken care of by this generation.
Yeah, I'll find a picture of her.
Yeah, I look at some exhibitions these days, and I think I never would have come up with that. Maybe I am the older generation.
It is fascinating. Well, just even the kinds of majors and the amount of collaboration that's going on in so many of the studio classes and the things even we're doing at Maryland Institute. The nature of making is very different. I'm still quite a solo lone wolf kind of a person.
I like that lone wolf.
Well, obviously, you're living out here with one, but it's a lovely thing. It's a different generation, that's for sure.
So imagine if you had a museum like that.
Yeah.
That could do that. That it wasn't just based on market value of that time period. It was a living process of making art.
That's how I teach art history, though. I always want to have students think of it as this was a person who was responding to something that was happening in their time, and what is it that they came up with, and why is it still standing the test of time, or isn't? And I keep thinking of these as my colleagues, and I want students to get to know what could possibly have made someone want or need to do this, and I teach it in a really different way. On purpose. I don't even know if it's on purpose. I just think it's out of necessity for me. There's not very little theory in terms of, the whole scholarly thing. It's people that need to make an effort to address their zeitgeist and the things that matter in their time. And that's the thing that you've always done. And that's why you get to be Kollwitz's, 21st century colleague. I think that's just as thrilling as it can be. And to have this next generation understand that and be able to make that visible for an entire new group of people, wouldn't it be lovely if that we had that so much more often than the blockbuster show with the big book that nobody's going to read the essays in? It seems like that exhibition was its own work of art. That'd be a great assignment for a group. Discover an artist that, like when I would say you're shopping for mentors, when I was talking to history print students, you're shopping for mentors, and you have to find something that you absolutely fallen in love with, and make something that responds to that. And if you were to give a charge to, let's say, an art history curatorial studies class, and say, okay, each of you or a pair of you need to come up with an exhibition like this of the friendship and all of those things that created that.
Because artists work together, even if they're isolated. There's community. It's sharing ideas. It's not how it's marketed. It's not competition. It's the opposite. It's supporting each other and being interested and helping.
And talking about, look who I just discovered kind of thing. And it's just, that's so beautiful.
It's that.
Yeah. And then asking that person what their great chain of being is and how that moves back. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Well, that's why I love your website.
Oh, hey now.
Because a friend made it.
Well, to see the mold. That took me on a long trip. It was it's the radio website.
Ah, that's Ann. The Platemark.
Oh, Platemark.
Yes.
Yeah.
I could go to your website.
Well, you could because it exists because of Ann. Don't worry, I'll give you a card.
Okay.
I knew I had to bring one or I would have been shot dead.
Yes, that's right. Well, it's hard. I mean, that's the downside of being an artist, right? Like, you just want to be able to create, think hard, do the research, distill, create. And then there's all this other crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the pricing.
And thinking about, placing things in institutions,
Yeah. Well,
Like me. Place me in an institution because this world makes me crazy.
Weird placing you in an institute. It's just the language of it. It's like a secret language.
Well, no, the placing just gives the opening to either gift or purchase. That's really all that was about.
You poor sad creature. It's like so sad.
Maybe we should stop now.
It's so funny because usually that's my face. And you gobsmacked. It's so
Oh,
sweet.
you poor little thing.
Okay, tell me why.
Well, don't you draw or paint or carve?
No, this is my creation.
And it totally is. As you said, the website, that's all
Yeah,
her.
well, this is what Hildegard would do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, my strength,
she's making this happen.
I'm not,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
And
not my
She says
strength.
that it's important in our struggle.
Absolutely, because it's the sharing and the
Exactly.
communion.
This is the art world. She's making an art world where we can
Yeah.
possibly survive.
And
Eke
say
out small. She's sharing.
the fact that printmakers are the nicest people, that is indeed Anne. And it's so fun to see
This is
the
very
fan
important.
mail.
So yeah,
No, seriously, it's like
she has to
geeking out
be-
about things that you
yeah,
kind of
she has
have to be quiet.
saved.
We'll save you. Stick with us.
Yeah.
We'll
An
get you
important
there.
cog in your wheel, my dear.
We'll get you there.
There's a role for everybody in this whole ecosystem, and
Yep.
you guys are the start of it, and nothing happens
Yeah.
without you and your work.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
And then if we're lucky,
know.
we personally don't get placed in institutions like Marion or
oh my god,
So
sorry.
she's angry. now.
Cutting. No, I'm not.
Don't.
That whole part.
Angry.
it's good. See, this is genuine. Vulnerability is a superpower.
It's not the institutional. There's so much wrong with the institution.
This is true.
I mean, it's all the colonial past of it, the collecting of other. Like, it's all awful. Lots of it is awful.
So is teaching art history anymore.
Right.
I really feel like I have to retool my whole toolbox. It's just, it's like, okay, here's a history of dead white guys. And there's some cool stuff going on. And Kehinde Wiley, we could talk about large metal men, like, rumors of war.
Right.
And it's just, it's really an exciting time, but it's also terrifying. It's
It is
very
terrifying.
hard to be in a classroom and realize that almost anything I say could be triggering or otherizing. And it's like, shit, man,
But
I'm already other.
But I feel really strongly about art being a thing that can teach people
Absolutely.
and make them think about things they probably didn't think about yesterday or whatever.
Right,
I
right.
feel really strongly about that. And if my job is to, put some group of objects together to help people do that, that's my role.
Absolutely.
And I want a museum of printmaking.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that'd
This
be
is
awesome.
Such a whole.
Oh, indeed.
It's just, this is the dream. Imagine a whole museum of printmaking. The
We would-
basement, we can have all the presses or not be press dependent.
Yeah.
We could have Hogarth on one, Goya,
The other day we were.
So you can start thinking about that.
I'll
as
get
you
on it,
are
yeah.
Well, you should see. So the other day we were looking for something, and Anne was looking up. We wanted to find women printmakers. She Googled it, and there was women painters, women architects, women
Exactly.
Photographers.
Exactly.
Not one damn printmaking, nothing.
Yeah.
And this needs to be remedied.
Yeah.
Anne,
And it's something that's doesn't have the baggage now because it's completely,
it's fresh.
it's fresh.
Mm-hmm.
You could really start working on this now.
Okay.
So just get funding. We want something as big as Tate Modern.
Okay. I'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a desperate need now. So it would have ballads. We could have all the ballad woodcuts going back through the centuries. I mean, people have got massive collections of really great prints. They could, we wouldn't have to scuffle around.
Yeah.
We could get really fantastic
The legacy
prints.
situation.
Yeah, legacy situation coming up.
That'd be fun. If I won the lottery, the big fat lottery.
No, you have to use your talents. Your talents.
It's like printmakers, honey.
To, find wealthy donors.
Yes.
And no, I'm serious now. I'm very serious.
I know.
That you have to start doing this because we need this. We need the political dialogue. We need the social dialogue.
Yep.
We need a proper museum. Hurry up.
Oh.
Get on it, Moody. Chop, chop.
Wait, so,
please.
but you're talking about something more than a collection of objects. You're talking about presses in order to
A
demo
museum
or
as
to use them.
To demo, to have an urgency.
The muses that make people.
Extinction Rebellion, we could get a whole, you get printmakers in there helping kids do multiples, cover the streets.
So it's a working shop.
Yeah,
absolutely.
working shops, because no one understands how to make a print. I could explain it a million times about etching.
Yeah.
It doesn't sink in. You've got to see it.
Yes, you do.
Got to see it. So, we
Okay.
need that working element to have the urgency, the instant turnover. I think this could be good.
Okay.
Just start working on it because you've got the language where you could talk to.
I'm going to stand in the sunbeam for you.
Yeah, thank you. You've got that language.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate
you
your.
do.
Hurry up.
I
But it would be
appreciate
great.
your faith
Think
in
about
me.
it.
And, I think she has the whole...
Oh, she's got the package. She's hooked up.
Yes.
All right, so maybe we should wrap it up.
I don't
That
think
was
so.
so good.
God, we could talk
you
all
have
night.
to make the museum of print making.
That's my
Someone has to do it.
Number one
Yeah.
assignment.
Well, I think it's brilliant. And then,
Running a
I
print
think
fair
it
isn't
is
enough?
It'd be so popular.
well, you use that
Sure.
as fodder.
There you go.
You use it as fodder and start getting the word out.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not like the Museum of Print that's in Texas. This is a printmaking museum. So it is.
History of printmaking.
Yeah. So it's like an encyclopedic collection. Completely integrated, male, female, every gender
Well,
there
it
ever
would be.
was. Yeah, of course. That's the
have to
point.
be.
Would
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
because it really could be that way. And then we could solicit those niche
And
individuals.
Japanese printmakers.
Absolutely.
Women.
Completely.
It wouldn't be forced. It wouldn't be silly.
Right.
It wouldn't be patronizing.
Yeah, it's like the national history of women in
Yeah.
the arts. So it's always troubled me. The very first show I was ever in was a women's art museum, and it didn't occur to me until after. I'm like, oh shit. I just wanted to be in a show that was in a museum, and then I realized that I had fallen into this, pigeonholed kind of a moment.
Oh.
But it's okay. I did some other stuff instead.
And you wouldn't fit there now. So
Nope, not
there
at
you
all.
are.
But I'm not going to start that museum either because
No,
people.
but this is a plus of a selling point. It's you're starting fresh.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what we have
Starting
to
a
do.
new canon.
Because this pressuring distortion of history,
Yeah.
it's awful. This is awful. Does no favors
Right.
for the oppressed
Of course.
either. It's awful.
Oh God! Think of all those folks like the Telegraphic, Popular. It's just people making things in their homes because they had to, and the Flugschrift, the things that get the Reformation going. Just God, you'd have the whole shooting match
Oh my God.
right up there to those assholes that you don't want to be.
My brain is whirring. Okay.
Good, excellent. Well, then somebody's going to be
Damn it.
squizzling around all
I'm gonna
night.
get another job. Okay.
Yeah, you do.
But that is the selling point, though.
No, that's true.
You started it at the print
It's
fair.
just starting. It's
Yeah.
not a restart. You are starting something
Right.
that's never been done before.
Right.
And I think that's the other thing about printmaking. Micah, it used to be that every student would have to take drawing 1 and drawing 2. Drawing 1 is the observational, drawing 2 is conceptual. But the concept of me trying to tell students, your job here is to be a trained observer. Don't take a picture of it with your phone. That doesn't mean you're observing it, and printmakers are trained observers. They're looking at of where they are and what is happening and what could be happening. I think it just, more so than any portrait of somebody, it's a portrait of their time.
Yeah,
And I
that's
find
well
that
said.
it's
Very well
just a
said.
thrill to be a part of that.
It's one of the few parts of art that you have to slow down so much.
Yeah.
And it forces you. All right, can we say goodbye so I can turn everything off?
Bye.
Well,
Okay, look.
thank you, Sue Coe, for being a mentor to many.
Okay, Sue, thank you for having us. It's been wonderful talking to you
Letting
today.
us come onto your compound and be
I so appreciate it.
Pleasure. I can give you food now. Right?
Oh, good. We're going to get fed.
Nah.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you
everybody.
so much, Sue.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this episode with Sue Coe. I hope you enjoyed it. She's amazing. Thank you to Sue for being willing to host us at her cabin in the woods and serving us dinner even. It was a wonderful visit. And also a thank you to Michael Diamond for the use of his original music. Oh, and a thank you to Tru Ludwig for coming with me on the trip. I know it was kind of a bucket list for Tru, so it was pretty cool. And also a thank you to Dan Fury for handling all of the audio stuff, which it's just opaque to me. I don't get it. So thank you, Dan. Also, I have to add to my list of thank yous 2 names who sent me audio from their print shops for the opening sequence that I just introduced. One is Skip Barnhart, who is a professor at Georgetown University, and the other is Lee Turner of Whole Editions. Thank you both for sending your audio in. I so appreciate it. All right, I think that's it. We'll see you next time.